Hi, it's Froggy time again, and I've got a frog mould now. I've mixed up some craft resin. I did about 40-50 mils of craft resin. It's a 1-to-1 low viscosity resin. So I'm going to pour part of that into the bottom of my mould. And I want that to set. I don't want too much in there. I'll add a bit more in a minute. I just want to take some out and pop it into, that might be too much. Pop it in there for a minute. So I'm just going to set that to the side. Clean up that little drip. Okay, so now I've got some cotton wool and I'm going to start putting that into my mix here. And I want to get this soaked completely into the resin. I'm just going to stir that around. Add a little bit more. So I'm aiming to make a cloud. A bit more. And at the moment you can see that just looks like sort of translucent. Doesn't really look very cloud-like. I've got this homemade rainbow alcohol ink. So I am going to put a few drops of that in there. I'm not going to put too much of that in there. And now I just want to get some white. I'm going to use some alcohol ink. Just a few drops of white alcohol ink. And again, that needs to be mixed up. And a few more fibres. Make sure that's coated as well. Now I've got to try and shape this like a cloud. So let's have a look. I mean, clouds are pretty much just a blob anyway, so I think that might actually do it. So I'm going to leave that now to completely set. Okay, I hope I'm not making a terrible mistake, but this has been setting for a couple of hours, and so has my cloud. It's not completely set. It is sticky, but I'm going to place that in here because I don't want it to sink, but equally I don't want it to be so high up that, yeah, well, it's in there now. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully that will set in place. Okay, I'm going to try another way to make some clouds. I've just got some paper tissue and I'm using some tweezers to shred little bits off of it. And I'm just going to keep pulling those until I get a little clump. Okay, now I'm just going to use some acrylic varnish. The problem with making it the other way with the resin is that obviously you've got to wait so long for the resin to set and cure. So I'm hoping, because I'm only using a very small amount of varnish, that it will cure really quickly. And I'm just using them to make tiny little clouds. So I want to mush that in. And just grab another stick. So I'm almost making like a papier-mâché paste. And then you can shape them. So I need a little bit more. Okay. So I don't want to make them too wet, and I don't want to squish them together too much. I want to keep some of that fluffy fibre. but equally I do need it to be covered in resin. Just enough so that it isn't dry. You don't want dry bits. Okay. Now I can fluff it up. Really isn't any right and wrong with clouds, just as long as they look textured and fluffy. But there you go. So anyway, I'm going to leave these to dry now. I've made quite a few of them and I'll let them dry. Hopefully this will dry a lot quicker. I'm going to stick them in the sunshine. I think it's going to definitely dry much quicker. It's not 24 hours for varnish. So yeah, and I'll see how these go in the resin. See you then. Okay, I'm ready to add some more resin in there. I've mixed up some more craft resin and I'm going to use some of this blue pigment from J. Diction. It's a pigment for resin. I'll get a little bit on the tip of this micro brush stick and see if that is enough. Just, you can't even see it, to be honest with you. We try that again. Pick up a little bit more and put that in there, and that, you can see it now. That's really all I want to tint this. I want it to be the barest amount possible so that you're not even sure that it is blue, but obviously the thickness of the resin will concentrate the colour as you look through it. So I'll mix this in, make sure that I don't have any streaks, and then I'm going to pour this into my frog. I'm tilting my mould and pouring it into the head, hoping that this will push out any bubbles and they're not going to get trapped under the chin. And then I'll gently lower the mould down as it fills up. You can see that there are bubbles in here. Craft resin does degas quite nicely, and I'm hoping that the cloud is sufficiently full of resin that it isn't going to release any bubbles, but it is possible that it might do so. So I think I'm probably going to get some bubbles stuck underneath those legs. This is the first time I've ever used this mould, so I don't know where the problem points are, but I can guess that they'll be under there. Now this is risky. I am going to put my little varnish clouds in here. I'm suspecting that they will float, and I'm probably going to have to keep coming back and moving them back into position as the resin sets. But I want to put them in here so that they can soak up any of the resin and fill any spaces that might have been left by the varnish, and give the bubbles a chance to escape while the resin is still fluid. So I'll just have to keep watch on those and babysit them and move them in position as we go along, and hopefully I'll be able to put them slightly further down in the resin and they'll stay there at some point. So once I've got all these arranged, I just want to see if I can chase out any bubbles that might be stuck underneath the little leg parts, and then I'll fill this up. So I'll try and carefully pour it into the legs and encourage it to go into the toes. I do want to put some little pearls in the toes. So I'm not overfilling this mould. I want to add something else onto the base. So I'm just going to use my stick now and guide that resin into those little spaces. And you can see already that my clouds are not only floating up, but they are moving around. So this will be a process, making sure that I keep putting them back where I want them to be. And now I've got some flat back pearls, and I'm just going to drop those into the little round bits at the end of the toes. Okay, they're all done, and I'm giving it a couple of squirts of some isopropyl alcohol just to disperse the bubbles. and I'll come back and keep checking where the clouds are and move them back into position. My frog is set and is ready to demold. I did get a few bubbles, but I did also manage to poke the little clouds back down into the resin. So I'm going to speed this up as I carefully demold this. I want to try and be careful that I get the feet out first. And here he is. That looks pretty good as a cloud in the middle, and the colour is just about right because I am going to add something to the bottom. There aren't too many bubbles, and you can see the other little clouds when you look at him in various different directions. I think he's really cute. So I need to go and prep something else. I want to make a template of the area at the bottom, and I do have a little bit of overpour here which I need to snip off. So I'll just grab a pair of scissors and I can cut that off while it's still soft. And I need to be careful because the legs are still a little bit bendy, so I'm going to leave those to completely set. Then I can make my template, but I'm really happy with him. I need to make a template because I want to put a picture underneath. So I've just placed a piece of acetate over the top, and I'm using a Sharpie pen to make the outline. Then I can cut out my template from the acetate. Try and see if it fits. And then I'll be able to place this onto my picture and draw around it. I used a laser printer to print the picture, but before I can put it in the resin, I need to make sure it's sealed front and back and along the sides using an acrylic varnish. And once that is dry, I'm going to use some UV resin to add that. First, I'll put down a thin layer onto the base of the frog and smooth that out. And then I'll put a small amount onto the picture and smooth that across the surface. Then I can lay the picture down slowly. I'll start at one end and gently lower it down, trying to smooth out any bubbles. Once that's in place, I'm going to use a silicone stick to hold it down and cure from underneath. Now that that's cured and held in place, I'm going to place this over the top and cure again. Then I can seal this in with some UV resin and level out the bottom. I'll put some in there and smooth it out and then cure it. I'll use some acrylic painter markers to give him some eyes. I'm going to use an orange and then I'll put in a black pupil. And that will be my frog for Froggy Friday, a frog full of sky. Please check out the playlist link in the description box below for lots of other fantastic contributions. If you've liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and comment, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It's free and you'll be able to find out what I'm going to make next time. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Bye!